story of Tony. Tony was a 44-year-old man running a cash business. He had 6 children, lived slightly north of the city. And his wife told the court that he was refusing to pay child support, that he abandoned her and the children, and that he left them alone in a cold, dank, dark home where they no longer had utilities, and they couldn't pay for heat, and they couldn't pay for electric. And of course the court got very angry. She also accused him of not producing the documents that he was required to produce in the litigation, so the court sanctioned him with a penalty that he couldn't introduce any evidence on his own behalf. The wife moved to have him, to hold him in contempt of court for not paying child support. The judge referred the case to a referee. Referee conducted a trial. The referee recommended that Tony be jailed, be incarcerated. The referee's decision went back up to the judge. The judge already confirmed the referee's decision, and the wife moved to have him jailed. And his lawyer, the 4th lawyer he had until then, died. And that's when he came to me. And he came to me, he was in pretty dire straits. But I thought I might be able to help him. I went into court to ask the court for a brief adjournment so I could prepare papers in opposition to the wife's motion. And the judge looks at me and goes, "Counselor, you know your client's got 1 foot in Rikers." And I'm like, yes, Your Honor, I know that. I need a brief adjournment to prepare my papers. We'll come back and argue. I prepared responsive papers. It was a massive undertaking. And I came back to court and argued. All the while I was preparing the argument, Tony asked me, "What are you going to say?" And I said, "I'll say this and this and this." He goes, "But my other lawyers tried that." I said, "I know that. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to try this and this." "But what are you going to say?" "I'm going to say that. I'm going to make the same argument, but I'm going to make it differently." We went back in court. And I tell the judge, "Your Honor, every day when he left his wife, he deposited $200 a day, 5 days a week, $1,000 a week, to her to give her support, to care for her." And the court looks at me and goes, "Counselor, you know that money you give a child doesn't count toward child support." Because of course the judge is right. The rule is that if you have to pay your wife $500 a week in child support, and then you go out and you buy your son a $300 pair of Nike sneakers, you can't deduct the $300 off of the child support. If you have to give your wife $500 a week, then you have to give her $500 a week. If you buy your son sneakers, God bless, you bought him sneakers, but you can't deduct it. So the judge tells me, "Oh, I left off one little piece." When they separated, the wife went and opened an account for him to deposit, for Tony to deposit the $200 a day, but she put the account in her son's name. And so the judge tells me, "Counselor, you know that money you give a child doesn't count toward child support." Now, Tony had told me that in the past, the judge had said things, and his prior lawyers would say, "Your Honor, you don't understand." And the judge would go, "I don't understand. You don't understand. Motion denied. Step back." And it was done. So now the judge tells me, "Counselor, you know money you give to a child doesn't count toward child support." And I go, "That's absolutely right, Your Honor. Usually." And the judge perks up. "What do you mean?" And I say, "Here, Mom created an account, and she directed Tony to deposit the money in that account." She goes, "How do you know that?" I say, "Well, Your Honor, Tony's son, their mutual son, was going to college here in New York City. The money was being deposited in a bank upstate." I said, "Let's take a look at where the money went." I said, $500 went to buy dresses at Lord & Taylor. I said, "Unless the son's got some fetish we don't know about, he didn't spend that money." $700 went to pay for the utilities on the home. $500 went to pay for cable TV. $300 went to pay for gas and heating. And also, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "Look, Your Honor." So the first exhibit I had was an index of all the other exhibits, and Exhibit A was the Lord & Taylor bills. Exhibit B was the utility bills. Exhibit C was the house telephone bills, and so on down the line. And one of them was even cash deposits made from her brother's business where she had taken out the cash. And I go, Your Honor, not only that, but she's been playing you. So when Your Honor ordered him to make child support payments, he would send her, of course, a payment in a certified letter, return receipt requested. And when the mailman would come to her home, she'd tell the kids, let's hide. We're playing a trick on the mailman. And they would hide. The mailman would ring the bell 5 or 10 times and then leave. She'd leave the checks in the post office for a couple of weeks, and then she'd go and pick it up. By the time she went there, because he was running a cash business, he wasn't the best bookkeeper, and so now there wasn't money. She would deposit the check would bounce, and she would run into court saying, Your Honor, his check's bounced. And so he would get into trouble. I'm like, Your Honor, she's playing these tricks. She gets the mailman comes with the certified mail, and she doesn't pick it up for several weeks. I'm like, Your Honor, this is the type of woman that when the children come back from Dad's house, now his oldest son was a bit of a wise guy, so they come back to Mom's, and his oldest son senses what's happening, so he butt dials his father, so Tony hears everything that's going on at Mom's house, and the mother comes running over to the oldest son and goes, You were at Dad's, right? You were at Dad's. And the oldest guy goes, No, I would never go to that bastard. I hate him. I would never go to him. And so she goes running over to the second son, who was a bit more of a straight guy, and she goes, You were at your father's, right? You can't lie to me. You were at your father's. And he goes, Yeah, we're coming from your father's. And she goes, Whack! She slaps him across the face. And when I tell that to the judge looks at me and crestfallen, like the side she thought was completely right was just completely dirty, and Tony, who I was representing, who she thought was the biggest crook in the world, turned out to be the right guy. It turned out to be a good guy. She gets off the bench and she goes, Wow, this case just gets more and more complicated. And we turned the entire case around. So I tell people, the practice of law is not arithmetic. It's not like you can pipe up and go 2 + 2, Your Honor, and the judge understands it's 4. But how you make an argument and when you make the argument, it's more like chess. If you make the same move, the move that'll make you win the case, if you make it a step too early, it can cost you the game. If you make it a step too late, it could cost you the game. You have to do it with just at the right time. You have to understand human psychology. Now in that case, of course, I had to find the case law to give the judge authority to do what I wanted her to do. But aside from her having the authority, the most important part of litigation is that you have to win over the judge's heart, mind, body, and soul. You have to get the judge to understand and believe that if the judge doesn't do what you're asking her to do, that a grave injustice will be done. And you have to make her want to rule in your favor. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed these videos, click like, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to call me. This is Chaim Steinberger. I'm a divorce lawyer in New York City. You can look me up at my website, manhattan-law.com, or at 212-964-6100.